Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. How's it going, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions, and today I get to talk about a series that I've been wanting to talk about for a long time. Join me for my overview of the Canto hardcovers from Dark Horse Comics. So let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. Before going any further, a big thank you to the folks at Dark Horse for sending us copies of these volumes. All of these volumes are already out in the direct market and book market. There is a 5th volume that's coming around the corner. I believe that one is due out in April. But what we're going to be doing today is talking about this wonderful series that I fell in love with a few years ago. And even though Dark Horse just started printing them in hardcover format last year, these were available by IDW before. They came out in the softcover format. So this is the softcover version from IDW. And one thing I want you to take note of is that these are standard size hardcovers, as you can see here. So the dimensions of the page size is identical to that of the trade paperback. They do have more extras, which we'll talk about here when I talk about volume 1. But here's what all of the front covers look like. Kanto, If I Only Had a Heart, The Hollow Men, Tales of the Unnamed World, and Lionhearted. All of them here together. And then, of course, the backs of each of these books looking like some kind of storybook that a kid would have, or you would have read as a kid. I love that about this series. The ISBN all the way down at the bottom, the Dark Horse logo, and this really is a story, I think, for all ages. I think it's for everyone. The retail price of these books is $29.99 each one. And let's look at the spines of the books together. Volumes 1, 2, 3, and 4, the Dark Horse logo, the horsey up there, and then Kanto and the subtitle. Then, of course, the credits over here. All right, we are going to crack each and every one of these open, talk a little bit about the story without going too much into spoilers, but I do have to talk about the premise of the plot, and then I will do a comparison to the first volume. We'll look at the build and the extras as well. All right, let's look at book number 1. I love the fact that you have end sheets and they're different. It's very nice. Monochrome right there. And then you have this right here, just some praise for this wonderful world. And Canto, If I Only Had a Heart. I know my Latino viewers are like, Canto, Kanto, come on, Omar, ¿qué pasa? And my dad would be like, what the hell is Canto too? All right, so I'm just going to say Kanto just in case. Canto, If I Only Had a Heart by David Booher. And then you have Drew Zucker drawing this one, Vittorio Astone doing the colors, and End World Design doing the lettering. There are quotes in the front and in the back from different books, but as soon as I give you the picture, you're immediately going to think, oh, that obviously definitely is inspired by this. There is an introduction here from Stan Sakai, including drawing the character of Kanto with that little bunny right there that might be familiar to some of you. All right, so this is all set in the world of Arcana or Arcana. And in this world, you have these little robotic creatures, these little tin creatures that are enslaved. And they don't know why, they don't know how long, they're just digging and making fuel for this fire. All they know is that a long time ago, this shrouded man took their hearts and replaced them with clocks. And their job is just to work. They're not given names, they're not giving identities. However, 2 of them have fallen in love. And it's breaking all kinds of rules. You have this character here and this character there, and both of them are in love. And she ends up calling him Kanto, and that's where he gets his name. And that breaks all kinds of rules. That means that he is an individual. He's not just part of this gears that are turning. So what ends up happening is that first of all, they go and explore this world, and you see that the enslavers, you also don't know why they're enslaving these little tin creatures. It's bigger than just them and the enslavers. For example, they run across this Malorex, and they're like, oh my gosh, he's going to eat us. And Kanto's like, no, the elder told me the older ones don't eat us. And it doesn't. It leaves him alone. And he's like, oh, I guess we're friends now, huh? So what ends up happening is one of the slavers hits Kanto's little buddy, the little girl that's in love with him, so hard that he damages her heart. So he is enamored by this legend, the legend of this knight that went to go and save a princess. And he keeps coming back, whether in a series of flashbacks or whether he is telling the story. So he goes to the elder and he's like, there's just got to be something you can do. You got to fix her clock. And he's like, I can't. So he gets upset, right? He's like, well, why don't you take my clock and give it to her? That way she can live. And he's like, that's not the way it works. One's clock cannot go to somebody else's. There is hope, though. He says that perhaps you can go to the Emerald Tower and retrieve a heart. Her heart. Because our hearts were taken from us. And if our hearts were taken from us, then there's a way that we got to get them back. So that's what this is about. Kanto goes on a journey, and in this journey, he will make friends along the way and make a lot of enemies. And you will find out exactly what the true meaning of love is. It's a beautiful, wonderful story that, yes, of course, as I'm telling you, as he's walking through this little road, as he's heading to the Emerald Tower, as he has no heart and he is a tin man, yes, it takes a lot of inspiration from The Wizard of Oz. But I think it's so much more than that. As a matter of fact, I think Booher himself has stated that this is like a mix between The Wizard of Oz and Dante's Inferno of all things, but it feels like an 80s movie, kind of like more like Return to Oz. It's got that dark grittiness to it, and also movies like The Dark Crystal or Labyrinth. That's what this reminds me of. So yes, he ends up becoming friends with that Malefax, and they go on this adventure. He goes and sees a hermit that's found under this mechanical creature. And she tells him exactly what he wants to hear about this legends and perhaps how to get to the Emerald Tower. And along the way in the Emerald Tower, he'll meet these two giants. One of the things that you're going to notice immediately is like these characters aren't given names. And that is something unique about the book. You're like, oh, it's this giant and this giant. However, when the giants come back in Volume 3, they will be given names. I think it's when they become important to the story is when characters are given names. You meet some of the warriors here, the Shrouded Man's warriors right here. And then you meet this young lady right here who will play a bigger part later on. Does he get the heart back for his little girlfriend? What ends up happening when he meets the Shrouded Man? And how do they stop these winged creatures? Oh, man. All the way in the back, and I'm going to come back to do a comparison to the original printing, by the way. You do have the extras. A little bit of the pitch right there for the quest. And then, of course, the character designs right here. Now, okay, so she is given a name. That's Alara. And Zixia is her little dragon, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later. I love the creatures, see what I mean? Like the giants, they're just creatures right now. And the script to the progress, and then you do have the covers right here. All right, this one has 192 pages. Let's look at, this is Kanto Volume 2, The Hollow Men. The first one collected the first 6 issues, and again, you have different end sheets. This one here collects the Hollow Men issues 1 through 5 and the one shot, the Clockwork Fairies. This one has 176 pages, and you do have the return of the team right here. Philip Sevi added to the inks. Now, the next volume will be a little bit different. So, it kicks off with the Clockwork Fairies, and this is a story about Kanto now back in Arcana. And he's with a couple of friends now. And what's happening is that you're going to notice that these little tin creatures are going to start having their own names. He meets this witch down here that has captured fairies and plucking their wings. And he puts her in prison. And she will become important later on. He keeps having the dreams about the Shrouded Man from volume number 1. So here, again, you have his buddy, the big creature right there, the Malefax. But also, we now have friends like Ricta and friends like Veretta and friends like Falco. So they're given their own names. And again, we're going to meet Alora and her little dragon. This time she has a backstory as to what's happened to her town after their encounter with whatever was at the Emerald Tower, because I don't want to give away what happens there. And then, of course, the return of the sisters right here and what it could all mean. And then the giants again. And the next time we see the giants in Volume 3 is when we're actually going to have names for them. This is one that has an epilogue, and the epilogue is him approaching the witch that had captured all the fairies, and he's telling her that there's a big war coming, and he needs her help. Oh, man, this just gets me all kinds of excited. Again, in the back, you have the extras of the sketches and designs, and then of course the covers and other books from the Kanto team like Killer Queens and The House. Now that is book number 2, leading us to Tales of the Unnamed World. Now this one will have a lot of different creators here, including some that you probably know. Again, and sheets looking different. And let me just get to the, right here. So you've got people like, not just Drew Zucker, but Sebastian Paris, and Liana Kangas, and Jorge Corona, and Sean Daly drawing these particular issues. So what this is a collection of, I don't want to call them like side stories, because I think that does them an injustice. You have the City of Giants storyline in here, where he goes and gets the help of these two giants. Fra and Ba. Now we have names for them because they are going to become important characters, because they're going to help with this big war that is coming, and it's coming to Arcana, or is it New Arcana? And then what happens is that, because it's not as easy as getting their help, they've been captured by the king and queen of this giant countryside, and they send them on a path. Now, who he ends up teaming up with is the witch from the second book. And what they have to do is go and retrieve the horn from this creature that is just eating all of their harvest, is scaring the children, and the giants can't get in there because the creature lives inside of this giant labyrinth. So now it's just up to him and the witch to go and retrieve this horn from this creature in order to free the giants, if that's truly what they want. The next storyline, this one I find really interesting. This is all about a bard who wants to be entertained. So it is the story of how him and a couple of friends, including the Malfex, go and try to recruit more people to join this big fight that is coming, and they run across this bard that's on a bridge that won't let them pass this bridge unless they tell them stories. So each one of the little creatures, including the character, love this one's the one that's drawn by Jorge Corona, including the Malfex, will tell them a story. And even Kanto's like, I don't have any stories to tell. And the bard is like, oh, yeah, well, what about your creature here? Surely the Malarex, I can call him Malfex, Malarex will have a story to tell. So there's a story about the Malarex, but it's all done with no dialogue. And again, you can find out what exactly the bard is keeping them from and who it could be. Now, in the back is the actual pitch. I'm surprised this was never collected up until the third one here. So this is the pitch for Kanto, including some of the original pieces right here about the world. And, you know, you can see some of the changes that they've made, like especially in the character designs, going from this to the first volume. And then your extras in the back. That is an awesome homage extra. Now, what I want to look at here is the build of these. Every one of these is sewn binding. This one here, this one has 144 pages. They are printed in this thick, glossy paper. I mean, real thick, glossy paper stock right there. Let's look at the last book. This is the one that came out in August. And this is a story about, again, building this army because of this threat that is coming. So they have to ally themselves with perhaps other creatures of the forest that we haven't seen or heard of in a while. So again, your end sheets looking different, including the old hermit right there. All right, so this is back to the classic team right here. And again, a quote from The Wizard of Oz, giving you a small hint. And you are going to see other little things in here that are thrown at you from The Wizard of Oz and from Dante's Inferno. I mean, you probably saw the Statue of the Seven Sins in the second volume, and of course, the road, and then you had some scarecrows. This one is about recruiting the army to come and help, because perhaps the shrouded creature, the shrouded man, has built his own army and is coming for Kanto and the rest of the little tin men and everybody, because he believes that everybody should be enslaved. And I'm not going to say who he is, because there's a little bit of twist to that. There's a little bit of twist to all of these stories, and what the meaning of this journey could be. This one has 160 pages. Then again, we have a volume 5 coming out in April of 2025, and I cannot wait. All 4 of these have been previously published by IDW, so volume 5 will be the first one that is published by Dark Horse. In the back is where you're going to get some of the heroes, some of the villains, and again, your covers, including that one. I will say, because of the end sheet, you will see some returning characters we haven't talked about, because we haven't talked about what happened to the slavers for a while. Now, what I want to do quick is give you a comparison between the original printing, the IDW printing over here, and the Dark Horse printing. And you have, of course, end sheets, because this is a hardcover, and this is a soft cover, so it's glued binding. And you have Kanto right there, the quote, and then no frame around your cover, so that is something different. Here, let me back up a little bit here on the camera. So you can, there we go. Let me move the rest of the books out of the way. Okay, there we go. So over here you have a frame around the cover. Over here you don't. And then we kickstart the story right here. So as you can see, how it just kind of lays over. And just beautiful type of artwork. The colors are just a little bit, and I mean a tiny little bit more vibrant in the original printing. You could probably not even tell here on video. Now, the original printing, this one here from IDW, has 172 pages, whereas this one here, the new printing, has 196. And yeah, it's a little slicker, the paper stock they're using. They're both glossy paper stock. The Dark Horse printing is using a thicker weight, like the weight on the papers feels a little heavier than this right here. Now, one thing that the IDW version does is that the covers, the variant covers, are all done in a splash page like this. Whereas the Dark Horse extras, like it has more extras, but like the pieces of art right here, let me zoom in a little bit more. The covers though, the variant covers, are done in the thumbnail size for the most part. So, not in splash pages. So that is a big difference. But that is it. That is Kanto. And that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of each of these volumes. Let me know in the comments down below if you already picked up the IDW softcovers, or if you've never read it, you've never heard of it, and this is your first time hearing about Kanto. I would love to know all your comments down below. If you've read it, what you think of this wonderful story, and if you can't wait for that 5th volume, and hopefully there will be more in a big collection one day, but we shall see. But that's it, everybody. Stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.